Guys, welcome to Oral Sessions. Joining me today, one of my good pals, WWE Hall of Famer, Lita. What up?
Hi. It's weird, it's like a bit more formal, I guess, than our usual chats.
It's not. It's funny coming into this. I was like, wait, because I obviously never call you Lita. And I was like, am I supposed to do that here? What do you prefer for these kind of situations?
I think that at this point, I've been Lita my entire adult life. And as much as it took me a minute to even respond to it, when the name was just bestowed upon me and they would be calling my name down the hall and then I'd be like, oh, me, yeah. But now it's been my whole adult life. So Amy and Lita they just sound like you're saying the same thing to me at this point.
Respond to all. I always remember doing kickoff panels with you, and I remember calling you Amy on air one time, and I was like, oh no, I've done it. That's like the quintessential error of like, oh, panic, backpedal. I mean, who are you? What? Wait, what did I say? Me?
It's funny that you feel like you've said something taboo where it's just like, it's your name. Although it would be weird if you were watching Friends and somebody was like, so Jen. And they're like,
yeah,
took me out of the moment. I was there.
Hold on. Not what I needed. It's very funny doing this show. I love doing this show. I love being able to interview people and just like hang out and shoot the for a bit, but it is always very funny. And I feel like I get in my head a lot when I'm interviewing like my friends. I'm like, what am I going to talk to her about? There's so many different things. I mean, whether we cover your career, we cover real life things. So who knows where this journey is going to take us?
I feel the same. It was like just 15 minutes before we were going to get on. I was like, oh, it's like a thing. Like, I'm not just like, oh, I'm going to chat with Renee in 15 minutes. I was like, maybe a lash, maybe a lip. I don't know.
I did a lash too. I went for a lash today. It felt right. I think I'm kind of far from the camera.
No, I see it. I get it. I see it. I notice like you have to do less with a lash.
Oh my God. That's the key. And also my eyelashes never actually stay up with mascara. So give a girl a lash and just call it a day.
Yeah.
Strip lash it off. The end. Okay. Here's where I want to start talking about things. I would like to get into some alien conversations with you.
Oh, all right.
Where did your love of our little gray friends come from?
Or green, depending
or
on
green.
Ask.
Sure. I mean, they're usually just called like grays, aren't they?
That's just one subset of potential alien culture. But no, so I think that it originated in kitsch. Like I love kitsch culture. I like give me a roadside attraction, give me like we're in on this kind of campy, like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Pee-wee's Playhouse, like sign me up. So I got into it from kitsch culture and like roadside Americana, but then every time I kind of something interests me, I have to then know everything about it. So while that was my interest, I was like, well, why is this the universal icon? Like the big head, the big eyes, the kind of the shape of the head smaller, and like who decided that and everything? And I had to figure, just research, just some leisure reading.
So where do you stand on your beliefs of aliens?
I more enjoy the possibility that something is out there and could be out there. And for me, that's just, it's fun. It doesn't feel scary. It doesn't feel crazy.
It's a little scary.
For me, it just feels fun. Like I'm like, kind of like proven, but sharks, I'm just like, I respect a shark. I would like to see one. Like that sounds fun to me.
When we were just talking about that, the time you and I, obviously not just on this podcast, but in real life, having a conversation about the time that we were in Miami and we rented jet skis and we were in that brackish water. And I kept thinking of those like gigantic I can't remember what kind of shark it is, but they were sharks that were living in the brackish water. And I could not stop thinking about that every time we jumped off the jet ski. I was like, this is it. This is going to be the moment that I get snatched up by one of those giant ass sharks, and that'll be it.
Would you rather be abducted by an alien or not attacked, because that's like a known fate, but like see one that maybe you don't know what's going to happen. Is he hungry? Is he not? Are you going to get back on your jet ski in time? Like see a shark in close proximity or be abducted by alien?
I'm going to go aliens because it's a better story to tell, assuming that I land back on Earth and we'll see what kind of physical
state you're in,
and what state I'm in, like what kind of psychological damage has been done to this point.
If they kept your clothes or not.
They can keep my clothes. I'm worried about where probes are going. I'm worried about what those memories are, but then also trying to convince people like, no, I'm not nuts. I was legit abducted by aliens. What are some of your alien sources? Because there's so many great movies. There's a bunch of great books. What are like some of your quintessential alien content reads, watches?
So
listens?
we actually, I think, started to watch, was it Fire in the Sky?
We did. Yeah.
So the guy that was abducted, that the movie's based on, his name is Travis, not Barker, but that's the name that popped in my head.
Sure, Blink-182, big alien guys.
He was in a plane crash and abducted by aliens. Just real 1 in a million. This guy's about to get struck by lightning too. No, Travis somebody. But I interviewed him for one of my UFO shows, and he kind of struggled with that. He was like, part of it's like, I want people to believe me, but then the other part is like, or option B is like, don't ask me about it at all. I'll just do my thing, live my life. You can believe or not, because I know what happened to me.
Yeah, and because there was an alien book that I read. God, of course, now I'm going to draw a blank on it. I should have obviously looked this up before. Is that the guy from like upstate New York?
Yeah.
Yes, it's Communion.
Scary, right?
It's really scary because that guy is like, he is an educated man. Mm-hmm. He's an author with like a great backstory. Like he's a legit man of the world. And he tells this story about being abducted in upstate New York with his wife and his like family friends or like another couple or whatever. Like, I don't know how you can read that and not lean into it a little bit and be like, man, this is a possibility.
Well, and then so then that begs the question of like, I mean, either way, if you were attacked by a shark or abducted by aliens, that is going to be your defining moment. And like, of course, but now you have to be like that girl that got abducted by aliens. Like you're not you now. Now you're just like, oh, that girl that was like going on.
You're a headline
podcast circuit.
Yeah,
talking about her alien abduction.
You're just a headline at that point. Yeah, it's wild. I mean, because it's one thing like to have like a ghost story, but to have an alien story is another situation. I actually just recently saw Joe Rogan was posting about a new footage that I think it was the Navy had just released of the like triangle shaped. Did you see that? It was like off the coast of California somewhere.
Yeah, I like that the Pentagon just released the information like smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. They're like, well, you're fearing for your life and just trying to maintain your community around you from not also dying. We know there's aliens. Like it was just like, let's just slide that in there while there's government chaos.
Get it out there. Expose everything. We're already down there. Let's get down to the nitty gritty.
Let's weed out the weak. If you're already stressed and can't handle life, there you go.
Here's this. I had a blast though the time that you and I went out to Area 51. We drove out there and we went to the like, what's the mailbox deal that we went to?
The area of Area 51. Like, mind you, don't put us on any lists. We did not go into Area 51.
No, we weren't allowed in the thing. We just kind of like drove around it. We scoped out the scene. We went to the little alien, which is adorable.
Adorable.
Got our alien jerky.
And then it's the black mailbox. So that's a meeting point for ufologists. So go meet me at the black mailbox because there's literally nothing around there and it's the only marker. My favorite was, so we went out there and it was maybe, I don't know, almost a year later I went out for my show and your picture, you had left a picture for the aliens of you and John and it was there.
I don't think I ever told John that I did that because he'd probably be pissed and be like, are you trying to get, like he'd think I was like conjuring them. Trying to like send out the vibes of like, come get us next.
I wish that was a thing. See, I think there's like some conjuring involved with ghosts.
Sure.
I don't know that there's conjuring involved with aliens. It's just like you roll or you don't.
Yeah.
You're in the desert or you're not.
How did you, so tell me about, let's talk about the show that you were doing. Cause you started doing a show and what you would like bop around to different, like, was it all alien based?
So it's called the UFO show. But then as people are wanting to get more into the deep dive scientific and experience, I also wanted to lean into the kitsch of it. So we went to Roswell. Like there's a museum, but there's like gift shop after gift shops. And it's just like, I mean, I just approach it with like lightness and fun, and retain a few facts along the way that may lead to some late night deep dives later. But my primary interest is just like, I'm on board. I'm on board with a parade. I'm on board with a costume. I'm on board with like an activity. So that's like where I come from on that.
It's hard for me because that is it's not walking a fine line. It's kind of like protecting yourself from becoming a crazy person that just wants to be obsessed with the conspiracy theories and then being that guy. But it is fun to lean into that. Like, I love a good conspiracy theory. I love having those conversations about like, wait, did that really happen? What could have happened if, like, I love to like take a total deep dive into that.
It can drive you insane though, because there's not going to be proof, or there is going to be so much proof, yet it's not widely agreed upon. So it's like,
it's like trying to decipher the news, where it's like some people are giving you this information, other people are giving you this. Which side do you sit on?
Yeah. Is soy good for you? Does it make you grow boobs, or is it like bad for you? It's like for everything is like, ginkgo biloba like good for you, or does it make you lose your memory? We don't really know. There's going to be compelling arguments for both. So it's like, that's why I come from a place of fun. Just live your life and have fun. Try to be a good person. And we just don't know anything is the bottom line.
No, we don't know anything because the news and information changes every 30 seconds. What are some other conspiracy theories that you enjoy?
I'll tell you, I've taken a step back from them because with our government and the last show of the 4 years, like it was very mentally taxing that I was like, I don't need to be thinking about other evil, nefarious things that are possibly going on, because right here on the surface, I have plenty to deal with.
Yeah.
And I'm not happy about it. So I don't need something else to be like, you could become a prepper before you know it.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think, and I will say, I'm sure that there was a lot of people, I mean, honestly, myself included, that once the world kind of started to shut down, it's like, I can't even buy flour if I wanted to make my own bread. I can't buy toilet paper. I can't get like things to clean my house. And you'd be like, oh my God, all these preppers are sitting back going, I told you so. Yeah. I've been saying this whole time. That, I mean, yeah, we all kind of walked into that one.
So yeah, I will say the pandemic has changed me in a way that, my motto for the pandemic, which we're still in, by the way, a lot of people don't like to acknowledge that, but was get through the day, keep me and my community and those around me safe. Yeah. Like that, and anything else I accomplish on top of that is a bonus. And so that was just like a survival technique. Otherwise, it was just very overwhelming because it was so many things I never thought would happen or had given any thought to that were now undeniably in my face.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, once that harsh reality kind of crumbled in on all of us, I think we've all lived this life of feeling like, to a degree, just somewhat protected of like, there's no way that could happen this day and age. There's no way we're going to end up in a situation like it would never even cross our minds. Because we all live everyone from whatever scale you're living on lives like a certain amount of like luxury, especially in like America. Yes, there's like different scales of that, but you never think like, oh my God, an entire pandemic, the people aren't going to have jobs. People are going to be sick and dying. And like, it's totally spiraled out of our control.
On a much more luxurious level of somebody that's used to jet setting and being like, oh, that looks cool. I want to go there. I want to see that. I have this gig, all over. And my routine was not to have a routine, but to be forced to like, all right, Groundhog Day, get up, go work out in the garden, make dinner, watch a movie, repeat.
Yeah. Were you doing other things during this past year to kind of just like clear your head and put you in like a better mind space?
My garden, girl, like I've never been a gardener because I've traveled. I'm like, it will die by the time I come back. Just no interest. I could appreciate a nice plant, but just, and so I just took over this community garden area and would spend like 8 hours a day out there.
Oh, it's great.
And, you know, it's just, there is something, yeah, it's like hippy dippy, but just like touching the ground and touch like with the dirt with your hands and everything it kind of is calming. That and being at the ocean, you know, I would try to surf, and the surfing has always been, and being in or near the ocean has always been my like, it's okay, you know, and just something's bigger than I am, and I'm not in control here, and you know, just kind of like zenning out is like watching the waves has always done that for me.
I feel like the garden stuff, because I'm going through a gardening phase right now. I feel like everyone kind of hits it at a certain point where you're like, I just want to plant some of my own, whether it's having like a herb garden or having some fresh tomatoes or just keeping a daisy alive. But it's really hard to do in the desert as well. And I just found this really great shop in Las Vegas, and I bought gardening cue cards because I kill everything. So I'm like, I need to do the research now so that my next trip will be more successful, because it's been a disaster to this point.
So that was a big thing so this was like an already existing just shambles of a garden, just like wild space. And so that was my technique, was see what's thriving and help it thrive, as opposed to like, I want this plant, or I like the way this looks. It's like, yeah, again, I'm not in charge. The nature's in charge, and let me work with what you got going on here.
Yeah, it's difficult. So, I mean, kudos to people that like figure it out. And I mean, it's just putting in time and effort. You can educate yourself and like, you can figure it out. But yeah, it's not just as easy as like a plant and water and go. It does not work, especially like you said, when we're on the road, which I'm kind of leaning on that as my crutch of why I have the bed thus far. I'm like, I've been on the road. I don't know how to do these things. But now I've got the time and the effort to put into like, make it work.
Well, Vegas, though, with those extreme temperatures, you do have to be like very specific about what you choose. Same as like in my place in Atlanta, like because we do have all 4 seasons there, stuff dies all the time. In California, you can just keep things alive.
Yeah.
I mean, and I will use gardening as a like, it all does it itself, really, you know, like
in climate. In California, you're lucky too, because at least you do. I mean, it's warmer, the sun's out at least, and you have humidity in the air. That's the thing that sucks here, is that everything's so dry, and if you overwater something trying to overcompensate for that, then you've also killed it.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, guys, this is now a gardening podcast. Welcome.
If you missed the alien section of the podcast, it's now a gardening. I just
did you think we were going to talk about wrestling the whole time? Because
as my drink came into frame, I just also, this is a pandemic. Just make my own kombucha over here.
Oh, what? How do you do that? How do you make your kombucha?
It's like sourdough bread in a way, so I've heard, which I've never done. But so you have a starter, which is called a SCOBY, and it's mold, fungus. It's like what you would throw away, but then you keep that in a jar, and you add a certain concoction mixture of tea and sugar, and then stir it. And then the SCOBY eats the sugar and leaves you with nice probiotics and like this thing that a lot of people hate, because I bet John hates a kombucha. I bet there's nothing he hates more than a kombucha.
He hates a kombucha. I love
look at our guest star over here.
Baby Ken. Sweet girl. Yes. Oh my God. I've not seen the Kens in forever. What a chick. 18 years.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Adult. Let's just move the microphone so we get a good view of her.
She can almost go buy a beer legally.
Yeah, she can vote now.
She can in Montreal. Take her ass up to Montreal and let's get Ken's a glass of wine.
She can get a lottery ticket.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, I want to get into a bunch of Ken stuff, but I need to finish this kombucha thing. What is the line of making kombucha to like making a moonshine? When does it turn to like booze?
Right. So you have to stir it and then taste it daily. And
that seems scary.
I thought so too, but I'm used to it now. So like, but when you taste it on the first day, it just tastes like sweet tea. And then it's like a little bit less sweet, a little bit less sweet. And then you just get it to what's how you like it until pull it before it becomes straight vinegar, basically.
Right. That is the tricky thing, because sometimes you get a kombucha, and I understand when people are like, I hate it because they've had the very vinegary ones.
Yeah.
But man, kombucha rules. And that was one of those things that was like, I wasn't sure during pregnancy if you can have kombucha. Cause I mean, I'm sure it's fine, but it's one of those like, I don't know, there's not been enough research and blah, blah, blah. So I've erred on the side of not having it, but I cannot wait to like tap into those.
She was like, do you want some of my kombucha? And I was just like, I felt obligated to say yes, but the answer was actually no, because I was like, homemade kombucha? No, thanks. And it was the best kombucha I've ever had. So then she shared a SCOBY with me and spread the love. And now I make it and I feel really good about it.
I'm going to jump on this bandwagon as soon as I can. I love the idea of making your own kombucha.
When I come see you, I can shave off a bit of my SCOBY and then there we go.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I'm all about that. Sign me up. Okay, so Kent is 18. It was just your birthday as well. Happy birthday.
Thanks.
I mean, you and Ken's have been together for so long. You have traveled the world together. She is your right-hand woman.
Yeah.
I mean, to spend 18 years with a pet, how lucky are you?
Oh my God. I could cry in like 2 seconds, even just thinking about the gratitude that I have for having my time with her, but really about the time one day I will not have with her. I'm just like calling all of my friends ever right now, like, you're going to need to pick up some slack. And like, I'm on alert. Like, I have no idea. When I'm coming home, I'll get like a few blocks from my house. I'll be like, I can't wait. I'm about to see Kent. I'm like literally been gone for like, I'm going to the grocery store and come back. I'm like, I get to see her again. And yeah, my life has been in such a state of flux and so many changes. She's 18. I've had her for 16 of those years, but since I've been full-time on the road at WWE until now, and she's the constant. And I mean, admittedly codependent AF with her. Yep. Like when she's not with me, like if I have to go somewhere, like a trip, I mean, that she can't come, I'm like, I have less of a good time. I'm like, this would be perfect if the Kens were here.
Of course. Yeah. When you have a dog that you have that special connection with, like I always say to John, I'm like, Blue is my soul dog. Like I am just with him on another level. He looks right into my eyes. He has a way to communicate with me. Like it is just a different relationship. And when I think about like, oh my God, the day that I don't have him here, I'm going to be up. Like I can't think about it. I can't even think about it. It puts me in a whole spiral. Oh, even this morning, I was about to hop on to do an interview and I was like, where's Blue? And he was just sitting in the backyard, sitting in the sun. But I often just like panic, being like, he's by the pool. Get away from the pool. His fat ass would sink like a boulder. So I'm always on like high alert and like take care of his hips, make sure his body's okay, make sure he's eating okay. Like
yeah, I'm like, I want every second up that I can have with a quality of life. Talk about what an asshole Blue was when he first met the Kens.
He's still an asshole. So Blue is a very good dog, but he is a very good dog when it is only John and I home because he's used to us. He'll just sit there.
No one will ever know he's a good dog then.
No, so we have company here right now. My sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and my niece are here, and my niece is a year and like 3-4 months. I can't do the math right now, but something like that, a year and a half. And Blue's obsessed with her, like he's like locked in on her, wants to follow her everywhere, wants to sit with her. But every now and then I'm like, he looks like he could be going in for a mount. Like, oh my God. But yeah, John and I will always be like, he's so good. He's so good. Then as soon as somebody else is in the house, he's a nightmare, like embarrassingly so. I don't know what happens, what energy shift happens, but he is like a secretive good dog.
I feel like he has like, granted, when we first met him, he was very much a puppy.
He was a baby, yeah.
But I feel like it was like this, he was showing off.
That's what it is. He wants to be like, look at all of my tricks. Look at how strong I am.
Bouncing off me, like, and then he'd like run and like barrel into like bounce off the bed. Like it just
he's
like
nuts.
Like kind of a bit of an insane dog.
He is.
He's a puppy, so.
But he's 5 now, and he still gets like that when people are in the house. It's not, and like poor Ken's being like, what, how, which she would have been, what, 14 at the time, I guess. Had no time for that bull. Yeah. When I was like posting the picture for your birthday, I have like a whole roll of just Ken sitting on my kitchen counter because she was like, get me the away from this. I'm too old for this and I don't care. I've been there and done that.
Well, and most dogs understand the rule, like how dogs work, right? Like she does the, like, she'll tolerate it for a second, then give like the warning, like off, you know, and then most dogs are like, oh, all right, sorry, I was like gonna play my way. You don't like that. I'll sort it out. Blue's just like, I do not hear the words coming out of your mouth. He's just like, anyways,
the course.
Yeah.
I will say with a baby though, he's very good that he like brings the ball and drops it and just wants her to throw it for him. So like he does understand. And even with me being pregnant, literally the night that I took a pregnancy test and was like, oh, and he came and he sat on my stomach like as if he was hatching an egg. It's like he knew, right? He like knew before we knew. And he's been like that the whole pregnancy, where he'll just come and lean against my belly, or he'll rest his little head on my belly and like fall asleep on it. Like he knows that a baby is coming. And he even like playing with him, if I go to like get his rope from him, he actually lets me just have it now instead of tug of war, because he knows that I can't with him anymore. So
that's interesting.
He is on another level. Benny is a dip, but anyways, dogs. Tell me about the Twitch world, because that's another thing that you've been getting into or have been doing over the past year as a way to still be in communication with people and still be out broadcasting and to be in contact with your fan base. How's that been going?
Yeah, I saw Paige was doing it and I kept getting all these notifications, and we were just catching up one day and I was like, so wait, why am I getting 100 notifications about something that you're doing? And then she's like, girl, it's so fun. You know, you just go on there and shoot the with fans and people, you know, and I will say the tech aspect has been a real uphill battle. I mean,
it's a doozy.
There is a giant learning curve. But then on the flip side of that, I will say I'm connecting with with my fans in a way that I have never have. And it's been really rewarding and they're super cool. I have 2 really great stories. One, so they've all formed friendships, like from having, you know, communicated on my streams. And then we have a love connection, where like a real life love connection. I met them in real life, and they're going like it's a real thing. They're fully in love and they met through my stream.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
It's so great. I'm so happy for them. And then just recently, and somebody else from this stream had a family member pass away, and 2 people from other states that had never met this person in real life drove in support and came to be by his side at a difficult time.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's just,
the internet's not all bad is what you're saying.
I really appreciate that. And just that, like getting the good side of the internet, and it makes me, you know how it is, right? You'd have like a million comments and 1 negative one. And then that's the one for some reason that sticks with you. It's just the way that it was worded, just enough to like twist that.
Yep. It struck a nerve that you're like,
right. And you're like, don't remember the other comments, but you remember that one. You can quote it, right?
Yeah.
And so it like dulls that, because I'm like, oh, these are real people. Like I know their name. Like I send them I'll know where they live. I know their names. I see them online. You know, like I feel connected to them, and that has been a great benefit of it. So yeah, it's that part of it is awesome. I'm pretty dialed in tech. I won't lie now, but it took.
No, you have done really well, because when I dipped my toe into the Twitch world and I was like, Amy, help me. Like I was constantly like calling you, FaceTiming you, trying to like sort my out. And you would be like, I'll just whip up a graphic for you. And sure, you just hop onto this. I was like, damn, what? Like, when did you start working for IT? This is crazy. Yeah, you got very good at it.
Well, much like once I know something, I've got to know everything. I mean, the amount of hours I had to spend watching YouTube videos and Googling stuff. And
thank God for YouTube videos though, right?
Mm-hmm. but I will say like a 10-minute YouTube video, I'm in for at least an hour because it's just like pause, like, all right, wait, what? I don't have that drop down menu, you know? And then I'm just like, oh yes, I do. It's over here.
Yeah, I've been like that trying to get like my setup to get like my podcast running as smoothly as like, a nice well-oiled machine as I can. And there's times you hit those hiccups and you're like, you know what? Let's just quit the whole thing. This is all too much over my head. But then you figure it out and it's like a huge miracle. Yeah. It's amazing. Okay, so now into some of the wrestling. How much of wrestling are you watching these days? Are you keeping eyes on things?
I'll go in phases. And I had a very hard time start of the pandemic when it was like soundstage wrestling. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is not, I can't do this, you know? Yeah. I felt bad for people that I knew that were, I don't know if they felt bad. They could have been perfectly fine to do it, but I was just like, I don't want, this isn't for me. Like, this isn't the craft that I love. Right. Yeah. So that was really difficult. Then when they started doing the virtual fans and then having some fans over at AEW and I would start to watch, but I will say it was more like in clips. Yeah. Clips. I would hear a match was good. I would go watch that, the one-off, and that would be enough. And then you always know, like gearing up towards WrestleMania. And as things have started to feel slightly more normal, I am, kind of checking back in a little more regularly and going and watching. And I can find myself, I mean, I always enjoy it, but I can tell when I need a break, I just check out. You need a little like palate cleanser. I mean, I think I was for sure when I left WWE, I was like, I need to clear my mind. I need to step back from all of this, which is not easy when you're also married to a wrestler who's now not only watching AEW, but watching every other promotion in the entire world, mm-hmm. which is, it's still different than the day in and day out of being at WWE and being at, Raw, SmackDown, whatever. But yeah, it's like giving yourself that little like mental cleanse. It is completely necessary. Yeah. I mean, I think the first time I did that was when I retired and I felt kind of guilty, but knew that that's what I needed at that time. Mm-hmm. And so now there's been enough time that I know that I'm never going to not watch wrestling or not enjoy it, but there may be another time that I'm just like, nope, just not watching it right now. I'll hear about something and it will like kickstart me back into watching it. But it's just like and I say that to fans too, when they try to like bro down with you and just critique a show. Yes. And I'm just like, and they expect me to be like, I know, fuck that. And this sucks and that. And I just usually respond, take a break. They want you to break it down frame by frame with them. And you're like, I'm just not there right now. It's not happening. But to validate their point, I'm like, I felt the same way. And you know what I do? I take a break. It's not my show. I don't own it. I can't control this stuff. And I would listen to you if I owned that company, but I don't. So take a break and you'll love it when you come back. Yeah. Yeah. And that is, I feel like I really noticed that even, as my time was winding down at WWE and sort of feeling like I was, burning the candle on both ends and just like, I got to go do something else. I was still working for WWE, but I went to Japan with John when he was doing Wrestle Kingdom. And I was like, oh, this is something completely different. And I really enjoy this. I enjoy what the show is. I enjoy what the fans bring to the table. Like that gave me a different perspective that made me just love wrestling from a different lens. Totally. I wasn't really watching it. And then I went to an indie show and then this was pre-pandemic, the indie show. And then they had AEW on the screen like prior. And then and I was just like what, and then that sparked, I was like, oh, remember you love wrestling. But it was like, you kind of had to step away from what, that I'm just like, in the indie show, loving every second of it, watching another show that that wasn't the world I came from, so it felt like it's a break. It felt fresh. Yeah. It would be remiss for me to not ask you this because she was on the show. I had Britt Baker on the show, DMD. After she had her match with Thunder Rosa, I had her on that week and she was like, all I wanted was for Trish and Lita to watch my match. Like she was thinking that like from like the time, I think even from the time that she
knew that they were going to be doing this hardcore style match. And it wasn't even the fact that it was a hardcore match. It was the fact that they were the main event. Mm-hmm. And obviously you and Trish get that nod as the first women to really be able to do that. Did you get eyes on this match?
I did. Not initially, but yeah, you know, like I said, I'll hear about something and I do care. So after I, you know, if I, you know, it's like you hear about something and it slips your mind, and but this kept coming back and I was like, I need to watch this. And not as a favor to Britt who you say, but like as I'm like, oh, cool, something cool happened. I didn't see it. I want to watch. Holy right? Like
right? How insane.
Yeah. I really I mean, that was great that they got that spotlight, but I mean, just to talk about, like, you just need a moment that brings you up from a wrestler that people have heard about to like just knock your stock up. Just like, I mean, and you know, I think Thunder Rosa won the match, but it was one of those that's like, it doesn't matter because
everyone got over.
Yeah. And I mean, I was thinking about that actually watching that, remembering the Sasha and Bailey, the Iron Man match that they had at TakeOver. And I'm like, people still go back to that match. I don't remember who won that match because it didn't matter. They just like tore the house down. And there's also like, there's no counterpoint. There's no counter argument. Like, that was an awesome match. I mean, not to mention, or yes, actually to mention, the crazy stuff they did. I mean, I saw the bag come out and I was like, man, for sure there's thumbtacks in there. Like, and just like they fully went for it, not for a gender or for a amount of time in the business. They went for it and delivered. It was crazy. I was like really impressive.
Yeah, you couldn't help but be like pumped for them to be like, okay, you earned getting this spot, you earned getting that main event, and you guys showed up and did the damn thing. Like, and it really was like a non-gender thing here of just like, oh, you guys were the main event, and you guys were so impressive. I wish that I was there to see it in person, because even just to like see it and like see like Tony afterwards talking to them and knowing how nervous he was for them heading and being like, are we doing the right thing? Is this going to be okay? And it was, they pulled it all off. So kudos to them.
I know that from being involved in ringside at so many TLC matches and hardcore, being so nervous, but from like for them. Right. Like from the people that are about to be in the match, where I'm like, oh my God, I'm really stoked to be standing here ringside, but I'm also really I'm going to be more stoked when we're on the back on the other side of the curtain and everyone's like walking out of there.
Yeah. Which one stick out for you for that, of being ringside, being like, a hope and a prayer, let's just get through this?
The TLC matches mainly, there's like it was in WrestleMania in Texas. It was the Hardys versus the Dudleys versus Edge and Christian. And it was me, Spike Dudley, and Rhino. And so that one, definitely the match that I just did an Untold episode with, it was Edge versus Mick. And they had a hardcore match. They had the bag of thumbtacks as well, and flaming tables and barbed wire and just stuff that I was like, this is going to be awesome, but I just want you like to be okay, you know? And so I mean, it would be hard listening to them talk about these things and to not have your inner like real person that cares about them as humans like come out like, wait, are you sure? Like, sweetie, are you, it's gonna hurt, you know? Like, it's hard to like just quell that voice.
You can't like compartmentalize those different things, because like I get like that with John when he has some of his matches and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me right now. And to be like watching them, and as much as I can just put blind faith in being like, well, he's a professional, he knows what he's doing, it's gonna be fine, to actually watching it being like, did you lie to me all week? Because this looks insane. It's really hard to, I mean, you can't change your relationship with a person when they're in the match and just be like, I was just smoke and mirrors. No, it's not. And it's terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, it was usually Jeff that I knew would usually have the craziest bump in each of the matches.
Yeah.
That once whatever I deemed, and I know that we all get hurt usually doing like the dumbest thing, or the like you just turn the wrong way, and it's like something that you've done a million times when you'll actually somehow get injured. But whenever what I deemed the biggest or scariest bump of the match was over, like that, I could feel like I could take a breath.
Then we can breathe. Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you're talking Jeff Hardy, like, good God, absolute psychopath. So talking about, I mean, looking back at some of those matches and through your career in WWE, one thing that I always find like interesting that was just a point, I guess, during your career was the that you got from like your relationships throughout WWE. How was that, being in the thick of that stuff and like the reactions that you were getting?
Or how is that? Like it's still talked about, and my relationships are commented on a regular basis, like on my Instagram still, or social media.
Crazy.
But meanwhile, all of the men involved, like, and I mean, even like anything not controversial, like with being with Punk or Edge or Matt, but like, it's like, I guarantee you they don't get asked about it, like I know they don't get asked about it because they're dudes, and they, like, it's that double standard
it's
thing.
A non-issue.
Yeah. And so I think that's at this point the problem, like what I hold on to, which feeling like the double standard. But I'll tell you, it was not easy. I mean, I mean, for sure I almost quit like amongst the whole love triangle angle. But at that point, not only was it so hard, it was also like out of shame. Like I wasn't proud of the way I conducted myself. And yes, if I had to do it over again, I absolutely would have handled myself different, but I didn't. And so I was very much like, like, make the bed and you lie in it, And so and at that point I was kind of just like, I deserve all of these terrible things that everybody's saying to me. I deserve like not wanting to wake up every morning.
Oh my God.
And so that was really difficult. And it was really difficult to also, as time passed, like let myself off the hook and being like, in the only way you can move forward with your life, sure, you learn from your mistakes and you keep going, but like you have to forgive yourself.
Well, it's also like, I mean, did anything that bad like, yeah, it's a thing, but like everyone relax a little bit. There's a lot worse things that happen and have happened and continue to happen. But yeah, it's like, do you think that you would get that same flack today if that was the case, or would it be worse because of social media?
Right. I don't know. I mean, so it's interesting because obviously it's like, with age comes wisdom. So it's like, well, it's hard to hypothesize because that just wouldn't happen. Like, like sure. I'm just like, I have a better skill set to communicate and navigate my day to day.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, that happened to me, and there was very limited social media at that point. So I could only imagine in that current day and age with social media. But then now, as I think that I would have some people at least taking my side, whereas I just felt like literally everyone was against me, and I felt very alone and isolated and just was in a really bad place.
Because also during a time like that, all that anyone is getting is the narrative that is being told on television. So you had no platform and no voice to be like, hey, here's what really happened, or here's my side of the story, where like, yeah, they just deal with what was projected to them, which was this like juicy story on TV.
Yeah.
That was just so intricately woven into what was actually happening in your personal life. But like, you got fed to the wolves.
Yeah. And so Adam and I had talked at the time, we were just like, because we can't unequivocally deny 100% of what's being put out there. I was not happy with how I conducted myself. I didn't want to like act like I was justifying my actions or trying to make excuses. So we both just chose to be like, you know what, like, we'll just let it run its course. We will just conduct ourselves with grace, especially because at that point, Matt was choosing to really take to the internet and get the fans behind him. So we were just choosing, you know what, we're just gonna, like, he can act that way, we're gonna stay quiet. And I don't know if that was the best way. Like, I don't even know what would have been the best way, like, given the fallout, like how else would I have done that, you know?
Yeah. We don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but it came up not all that long ago when you were talking about on your Twitch stream about just the that you went through and talking about that, the infamous sex scene of you and Edge on Raw, and just what that whole process. Do you want to talk about this or no?
I mean,
it doesn't need to be like headline bull.
Yeah, and then that's what happened is it became headline stuff and I looked at Twitch always as my clubhouse, you know, and also I never like breaking any stories there. I had talked about that I was not cool with doing that. Like, I've talked about that since 2005, you know, and it just never made any headlines. But now, since we've fortunately evolved as a climate and society, it was like shocking, just not that long ago, but yeah, my story's never changed.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny to like kind of look back now too, to be like, okay, in that situation of like what you had to go through and like the narrative that was being spun about you being like the female involved in that. It's like, it's kind of like, would it be the same today now that women have more merit and more of a platform to kind of stand on, to be like, it takes two to tango, first of all, but to just pin it on you like that and not be able to have a platform to actually tell your own story. But anyways, it's in the past. Who cares? You own a place in Nicaragua. Let's talk about that. I want to talk about just like your life outside of wrestling too. I mean, we obviously talked about the aliens and we talked about the Kens and we talked about traveling and bopping around and all that. But you have done a very good job of setting yourself up like financially. You've done a really good job of just like, you have properties that you've invested in, and that is a great means of income for you. I mean, who kind of taught you the ropes on how to figure that out?
I mean, I just think that I've done a lot of trial and error, and I've done a lot of in my life, like, what's the worst that could happen, you know? And so with that, my place in Nicaragua, when I knew I was going to retire, I was trying to set myself up to, you know, financially and have some passive income moving forward, not knowing what my future was going to hold and wanting to not know what my future was going to hold. I didn't want to have to like hustle for a job after retiring. And so, yeah, I just was looking at all of my finances, seeing what was making the most income and how that was going. And like a property that I still had in North Carolina was what, like, dollar for dollar was making the most sense. And I was like, okay, but I don't care if I ever go there. So I don't want to just have just like I don't want a job to be a paycheck. I didn't want an investment just to be a dollar for dollar. I was like, I'd love an investment that I could enjoy as well. Because the 2008, I had some conservative investments, but they weren't so conservative when the market crashed. And I was like, wait a minute, like, let me, these were just numbers on a, you know, you like log into your account and see a number. I was like, and now that number is drastically different. I was like, I want something I could touch. I want something I can enrich my life by. I want something I can learn from. And that way, if that goes away, I still learned, I still enriched myself. I still had these life experiences. And so that was my, the impetus for buying a place down in Nicaragua, but, you know, integrating into the community, having these trips down there, going on this like wild scavenger hunt, keeping my Spanish language up, and, you know, just kind of having new life experiences. And I've always said that, you know, I'm sure I would love if that could be you know, could sell that for a profit one day, but if it's also leveled if that's leveled in a earthquake, I still like my experiences and what I've gained from having done that is invaluable to me.
Why was Nicaragua the choice for you?
It was more just looking at, well, I wanted Spanish language. I wanted where it didn't take forever to get to, because I wanted to be able to go pretty often. And then, and I wanted where you could own outright, as opposed to a lot of countries will have like leases, or if you're a foreigner, there's a lot of contingencies on ownership. So I just had to do research on that. And because Costa Rica has such success, when they opened their properties up to foreigners, Costa Rica adopted all of their laws, you know, and made it pretty easy for a foreigner to set up shop down there.
How did you become Machete Girl?
Do you know this? Is that why you asked it?
I know you've told me a while ago, but I remember it being like a pretty interesting story.
So it's pretty Wild West. I was only like Twitter was kind of big when I was like, you know, when I bought my place, but then Instagram had just started more. And I think I was probably getting some hate or some negativity. I was like, you know what? I just need to check out of Twitter for a bit. But I'm down here in Nicaragua and I'm taking all these cool pictures and I want someone to see it, or, you know, and it's Wild West down there. You can kind of do whatever you want. Like just have a machete hanging from your hip. And I wasn't personally using it to like chop down brush and fields, as which, you know, people are doing there for their actual job, but I would use it and I would go on some unforged trails when I would go hiking and stuff. And you could just like walk into a restaurant and no one's gonna be like, ma'am, you need to put your machete away.
Do you have a license for your weapon?
So yeah, I just would keep my machete, like full size machete, just like hanging from my hip. Like, so I was like the white girl with a machete and a dog that would walk around. Like no one knew me as Lita down there. They're just like, and so the locals, they would be like, when they'd say, hey to me, they'd just go machete, you know? And so like, that was my nickname. And so because I was in Nicaragua, when I started my Instagram account, I was Machete Girl.
Would you sharpen your machete yourself?
Eventually. Okay. But I had a neighbor show me how to do it with a sharpening stone. When I saw him doing it one day, I like came home on my bike and I was like, ooh, this is a skill I need to know. And then I like bellied up and I was like, you know.
I've always wanted to learn the skill to sharpen knives because I have a bunch of nice chef knives that certainly need to be sharpened up, but I don't know how to do it. But you're very like hands-on with stuff. I mean, for you to learn to sharpen your machete, but weren't you also taking
welding?
Yeah. What sparked that interest?
That was like I need something to do, or I need a bit of routine, but I'm like, but not too much. Like, because that's like, that's a job, go get a job, you know? And I was like, no, that's too much.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it was just at the community college and you just got in there, put your goggles on and got in there and tinker around. And it was cool because I was the worst, because they would use, I guess, regular terminology for people that have like anything to reference terms of welding. And I'm looking at my notes and I'm showing him to our teacher and he's like, no, not like I would have the words written all wrong. Cause I'm just like, I'm just writing the words that you're saying. I don't know what these are, but so I was for sure the worst in the class and just like burning everything and oxidizing everything. And then right at the end, I was like, I'll go ahead and say I was probably the best welder by the end.
What was the light bulb going off that you like made the switch and got good at it?
Patience, practice, and then in studying like these words, and then just not telling myself that I'm bad and I don't know what I'm doing. Which I would say that for Twitch too, because I'm like, I don't do computers and technology. I don't know how to do it. And it's like, well, you are. Here you are. Either don't do it or figure it out. And so I think but that was a little bit more passive. When you asked me, I think that's the first time I thought, how did I go from being the worst in the class? But it was like, stop on yourself. Yeah. Stop like defeating yourself and saying that you're the worst person in the class that has no idea what you're doing. And it's like, that's what you're here for. Like, calm down, no expectations, and like be patient.
What were you making?
So it's funny. So, I'm in San Francisco, like home of like the mass exodus to Burning Man once a year and everything. And
yeah.
So people are like, I want to take a welding class because they're just like, I want to make these giant metal angel wings and do this and it'll have flames shooting up. Yeah. And the first day he was like, so you're not going to make anything cool in here. You need to learn how to do every technique of welding and every technique of welding good before you can make anything cool. You will leave here with this class with a doorstop. And he was like, and so we had this, it was like an X, bracket. So we had to do this like water plasma cutting where like you like cut metal with fire and then you got like 4 long pieces of metal and then you made it into an X. So now you had these 4 reservoirs to just fill with welds. And so we would just work on different welding techniques. You just fill it, you just go down, fill it, show it to him. He'd be like, that's oxidized, that has holes in it. You're too hot here. You need to turn up your flame here, go back, do some more passes. And then when it was filled, you could give it a quarter turn, start filling up your next reservoir.
So you are a very well-traveled woman. You love to go on trips to anywhere and everywhere. What is your best trip that you've been on?
Oh man,
I know that's generic.
It's really hard, but I think I would say
leading up to our Madrid trip.
That wasn't in consideration, really.
Not for me either.
Galapagos. I would say the Galapagos.
Why?
Well, first of all, you're there with a naturalist who just tells you things all day long. About, like, how you're just like, I wonder why that happens. And he's just like, that like someone comes in and
blue guys.
Oh, blue-footed boobies. They're there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See, I remember things.
Yeah. And because it is so highly protected, the animals do not give a about you. And like, you're supposed to maintain 6 foot distance, but like you could be what, like, I'm going to respect their boundaries as well. But I mean, like, they don't. So like, we're watching like albatross mating dances.
Oh
like you just see them fully doing their thing as if you're not there.
Hell yeah. It's really cool when you can go and like, really it feels like you have like David Attenborough might as well be in the background giving you the rundown of the whole thing, which is not what our Madrid trip was like.
Sure wasn't.
So to provide a little bit of context here. So Amy and I had planned to go to Madrid. This was after we had TV in Manchester, London, something like that, whatever it was. We were already over in Europe. So we're like, okay, let's go on a trip. And it was me, you, and your girlfriend. What's her name again?
Sarah. It's my normal travel buddy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's the 3 of us. We've got this great trip planned. And Charlie Caruso had just started at WWE.
Like the day before.
Brand new. I did not know her at all. But me being like friendly Canadian, I don't know why Canadian goes hand in hand with that. That's my crutch and I'm using it as an excuse here. But I was like, she was talking to me. She's like, so how do these like European trips work? I'm like, well, what I normally do is like we're in London, Manchester, whatever. And then I kind of parlay that into another trip. And anyways, Amy and I are going to be going to Madrid. And she was like, oh my God, so cool. I go, yeah, I mean, come if you want. And I threw it out there. Not thinking that it was going to go that way. And she was like, okay, I will come. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a stranger. I don't know this person. And that's fine. But then when I had to be like, Amy, I invited another person on our trip that you didn't know at all. I don't think you guys had even met.
No.
Nothing. So I brought her on the trip with us. And it was just funny because like the dynamic was so weird. And this is like no shade to Charlie or anything. It just threw kind of,
it was a similar, like my aversion to like going on a like planned group trip, like that, like a nature expedition that's like in a group. I'm just like, no, thanks. I don't need to go with strangers.
That story is just always funny to me to think about that. Like me panicking, knowing I had to tell you. And I was like, Amy's going to kill me.
Well, and then I was like, I'll just tell her no. And you're like, no, well, we do now. Now we do work with her. So that's probably not like the most welcoming to be to like, who will be a colleague like down the road. And I was just like,
and so just for people, just for you guys listening, it was just odd because like, yes, we didn't really know her at the time. We had just met her. We're staying in an Airbnb. And it was also just like totally different people. Like I can be pretty fluid in situations of like, I'll do what you're doing, or I can hop over here. But like, you're a vegan, Sarah's a vegan. You guys are like, you guys had your trip planned out for how you want to do it. Then I'm trying to accommodate another person who is not falling under these same.
Well, you know how it is. It could be stressful. Like, okay, I know when I go back to Atlanta, I have a ton of friends there, and then I try to group them into like, because some of them just don't overlap, and I love all of them, but like I'm like, well, I wouldn't invite this group to that. That's like this group.
It's not the right match.
Like, it was just like some satellite activities happening.
Anyways, we still did it. We did the damn thing, and we cried at flamenco. And I was thinking about the other night.
Oh my God.
We went to this flamenco performance, and yeah, you and I both just looked over at each other and we're like in tears watching this beautiful performance with the bellowing deep cries that they do in their like musical performance combined with the dancing. What a beautiful art form.
Now those I do have. My castanettas, like those are on deck.
Yes.
Like I just brought those out on a Twitch stream the other day and just was like
so cool.
Pretending that I could do it.
Well, we really thought we could do it for a bit. I mean, we were really throwing down those foot stomps for a while.
On the walk home and therefore and ever after we were so that is something just like welding and tech and kombucha making that I was like, I should be a flamenco dancer.
Yes.
But, so I went to sign up for a class and I was researching about it and looking about it. And it's so hard, even though we were great after a few cocktails on the walk home.
Hell yeah, we were.
I don't know why people seem to say it's so hard, but that after like I was read, like people are like, yeah, after 3 years, you still can't even do it. And I was like, well, I'm not like I'd get a degree. Like if I was gonna, like if I was gonna commit 3 years,
a doctor by the end. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm all about the building blocks and the layers that go into art forms and to actually be good at it. But like, throw me a bone here. Tell me I can do like something by the end.
But you got to think Dancing with the Stars, they don't do a flamenco. Like they do a paso doble, like they do some like Spanish inspired ones, but they don't, because you can't.
Yeah.
In that short time.
I guess so. I mean, it's an intricate dance. No question. I mean, I don't know. I still feel like you give me half a bottle of wine and I could still throw down maybe.
I mean, I was great on my castanettas the other day on my stream. I don't know. I don't know what people find so hard.
Yeah, guys, it's obviously fine. And back to sticking with your musical expertise, looking at your band, how did you get into wanting to dabble into music after you left WWE?
So prior to wrestling, I was in bands.
Okay.
And so prior to wrestling, I played in a couple of bands and was taking like judo. That was my thing. And then when I saw wrestling, I was like, oh, it's like doing judo and being in a band at the same time, like the rock star aspect of being in a band. I was like, combine these two things at once. And so it was just, so I definitely cut music short because you got to go full stop if you're going to, pursue being a professional wrestler. And so when I retired, I was like, oh, I want to re-explore that.
I did not know that you played bass guitar.
Yeah, I mean, not well. I play that because it's only has 4 strings. So it's easy to not spend, like in 3 years, you could be a killer bass player.
I've seen Xavier Woods doing it. Have you been seeing him posting it online? He's learning bass guitar right now. And it's like every time he posts, I'm like, dude, you're basically Flea at this point. Like you're good. Yeah, it's crazy. And I also didn't realize that you were a roadie at one point.
Yeah, that was my foray before I learned how to pick up a bass. I was like, oh, you just get to like just carry a bass in, and
Close enough.
You get the best seat in the house. And yeah, I mean, so I was definitely drawn to that pirate lifestyle from a very early age.
Yeah, I mean, you have been very much so, like, very nomadic. You move around, you bop around, you kind of just do your own thing. What are some of like the staples of structure that you have, or is there anything that you're like, these are the things that I need and everything else is fluid?
Well, the thing is, I would love to have, or let's say, I won't say I would love, I've romanticized heavily about having a schedule with a partner and more of a kind of structured, day to day, which part of it I've had this been forced during the pandemic, but you can't control who's going to come into your life and when, and what a partnership looks like, or what, it's like, so that part I can't control. So what I can control is, well, I don't want to just wait for the right partner to go travel and experience and do these things. I would love to have been able to do that with a partner, but that's just not how the cards, that's not the cards I was dealt. So, it's like that rude thing that people be like, when are you gonna have a baby? It's like, that's not
off. Yeah.
Prior to like a solo decision. It can be, but like now I'm getting into a really deep in the weeds with a kind of casual stranger. So like not appropriate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would love to have a partnership, or I don't need to get married, but I would love a traditional partnership, and that just hasn't been how my life has worked. So in the meantime, I'm like, I don't want to just sit and wait for that. I would like to experience and have as many life experiences as I can.
Yeah. And I mean, you've done it. I don't know anybody else that has lived life as fully as you have. I mean, you have done everything. I mean, you've been able to explore all these things that you want to do, from professional wrestling to being in a band to picking up welding to traveling around with your dog for 16 years. Like, you've been able to go to like every corner of the globe and have all of these amazing experiences. Well, thanks for coming to hang out with me. Oh, also, let's just not throw away the fact that you're going to be guest hosting an episode of this show.
Oh yeah,
pending that you still want to do that.
Yeah, I just want to have yet one more thing. I've strayed away from the podcast thing. It seems like too much of a routine for me, but guesting, just like a small takeover.
It's like babysitting. Step in for a second and walk away from it. Yeah.
I'm an expert. I'm like, just godmother, like just sign me up. I will pop in. I will come and be the support when you need it, as long as you don't need that full time.
Exactly. No, it's truly the best of both worlds. Come in, around for a bit. Here you go. You can have it back now. Not my problem. So that being said, to wrap up the show, yes, Amy is going to be co-hosting or not co-hosting. What's the word?
Takeover. I'm taking over.
You're taking it over.
I'm guest hosting.
Wowzers. Words and brains are not my friends right now. You are going to be guest hosting an episode of the show. You get to do whatever you want on the show. I mean, whether you're going to interview somebody or you're going to whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You've got like an hour or whatever.
Do a welding class, a castanetas class. Yeah. No, I'll play it safe. I haven't decided who I want to interview, but I'll pick somebody interesting. We'll have fun.
Yeah.
Keep with the theme of not having a theme, and just and sit back and enjoy.
I mean, it's just having a conversation with whoever it is that you feel like having a conversation. That's how I kind of look at it. Who's interesting that I want to have a little chat with? So the world is your oyster. I'm giving you the keys to the castle. It's not a castle. I'll give you the keys to the loft or the studio apartment.
It's all
yours. Yeah, great. All right, guys. So you will be hearing more of Lita. You may know her. Oh, wait, I was going to say that backwards. More of Amy. You may know her as Lita. Thanks for hanging out with me. And they can hear you on the show that you guest host. Enjoy it.